Hello and welcome to the Creative Cow Show. Today we are speaking with Matt Bach, who has been a lab technician with Puget Systems for 20 years. Hello, Matt. How are you?
I'm doing great. Nice to see you.
Now, you've been with Puget Systems for 20 years now. Can you tell us what the impetus behind the certifications came from? Did you just figure after 20 years of doing this, you know what is what, and it's time to put your blessing on these certain systems that you've put together?
Yeah, in large part, I mean, because nothing has really changed internally in our company with, when we launched this badge. Honestly, in some ways, it was like hey, we should really do this. Yeah, okay, pull the trigger. It's more about making it clear to our customers where we are foremost experts in the industry, because there's a lot of different ways that people do, computers. The norm is you look at what the software developer says, what the hardware manufacturers say, feedback from end users, and you use that to base what the right hardware is for a certain application, certain workflow, those kind of things. But we go well beyond that in a lot of different areas. Examples are Premiere Pro, After Effects, DaVinci Resolve, Photoshop. And here we do a lot more than that norm baseline that's kind of the typical in the industry. There, we do a lot of developing testing and benchmarks specifically for those applications and the workflows of the end users. So instead of just relying on external information like most companies do, and again, we do sometimes as well, on those, we're performing additional testing internally to determine exactly how those applications and workflows utilize the latest hardware from companies like Intel, AMD, and NVIDIA. And so all of that testing, all of that knowledge we have to have before we can even do that testing, that also affects our consulting and support process. As you can imagine, the more we know about the software and the workflow, the better experience we can give to our customers, either pre-sale or post-sale, because technology is technology. Things have problems sometimes, but the more familiar we are with the software and the workflow, the more service we can provide. And so that badge is very much just saying, these are the software that we have spent this extra time, this extra effort to really understand more than pretty much anyone else what goes into the software and the hardware and how those two work together.
And can you tell us a little bit about the companies that approach Puget Systems to have these workstations designed?
Absolutely. Yeah. So our customers kind of run the whole range. We have everyone from grandmas making home movies of their grandkids. YouTube is like a growing field. It used to be that YouTube was, kind of prosumer or consumer level. Now it's like, it's nuts, the kind of things that people are doing and like the cameras that they're using for just like YouTube, all the way to medium post houses, all the way up to, starting to get up into Hollywood level, kind of industry. So we run the full range of, that kind of people that are looking for these systems. But often the actual work or the flow they go through is fairly similar. I mean, we have some customers that just go straight to our configure page. They can save a quote, they can buy. For those people, that's great. If they know exactly what it is they want and they just want to get their order in, sure. We're not going to stand in their way, of course. But we really like to work more closely with most of our customers. We really want to dive into what is it they're doing, and then use that to tell them, okay, this is probably the right hardware for you. And we like to speak in the language of our customer. So we want to talk about the things that you know about, not hardware. We don't want to talk cores and memory speeds and all that, because we figure, hey, that's our job. But we want to know from you, things like what applications do you use and what are most important? Because sometimes two applications will want to use hardware in a different way. And so, okay, well, which one's more important? Which way do you want to lean? What type of media they work with, down to the codec, bit rate, resolution. Again, makes a massive difference in terms of what kind of hardware there is going to be best for them. Things like what their storage setup is like. Do they have Thunderbolt drives? They're going to need Thunderbolt. Because unlike Apple, where Thunderbolt is kind of par for the course, on PC you've got to do a little bit more, or we have to do a little bit more evaluation to make sure it's going to work right. So do they need Thunderbolt? Do they have a 10G NAS? So we need to make sure they have like 10G networking. We want to spec everything so that it can slot right into their existing workflow. And then, of course, there's things like what issues are they currently dealing with that we can solve? Is it a performance issue they're having? Why are they getting a new system? Is it to solve a problem? Is it just because they're expanding? We're looking for something more reliable, what that kind of thing. And of course, budget. We never push people to a more expensive solution than what they need, but you kind of have to have a target for budget. We need to know if we're talking, you're looking for a $3,000 system, or hey, you're going all out and you need a $20,000 workstation for crazy color grading in DaVinci Resolve. So that's kind of the process our consultants go through. And of course, there's always rabbit holes you get going down for individual people, depending on what they're doing. But then it's really on the customer then of, hey, when are you ready to purchase? We're not going to push them, but when are you ready? Go ahead and do that when they are. Then it goes through our build process. We get it shipped out as quickly as possible. And the ship time, I think it surprises some people. Some people think it's long. Some people think it's really short. And it changes depending on part availability. Right now, it's about 2 weeks, which in our industry for a custom system is pretty quick. Honestly, we're very lucky. We have terrific supply lines. And so we have not nearly as many supply issues as a lot of other companies are going through right now. And why they have 2, 3, 4, 6 month lead times. That's the reason why we can keep it down to around 2 weeks typically.
Now, what does it take for one of your systems to earn the Puget Systems Certification Badge?
Yeah, so the short answer of that badge is basically it signifies that the configurations we're recommending and selling to our customers have been verified and developed through our labs team, which again, I'm a part of our labs team. So that's a lot of the role I do is, hey, what's the software? What's it doing? What's the hardware? What are they doing? And making sure that we know for a fact that this is the right thing for that workflow, for that software. And that's a lot of time. It's hundreds or thousands of hours spent on this stuff. It all the way down to going to NAB, going to Adobe Max, learning about what are people doing in the real world, to working with Intel and AMD and NVIDIA of what's the latest hardware from them and what is it supposed to do, and then tying all those together, and even developing specific testing. We have a range of benchmarks that people can download and run themselves. It's the same thing we run internally. But we had to develop all that testing. So it's a lot of work even within, Premiere Pro and their plugin APIs and getting all that stuff. And so it's a lot of work to put everything through that process. And that's why I'm not sure what the exact number is, but it's somewhere around half of the systems we recommend for like a specific workflow has that badge. It's because it is a mountain of work. It's not saying that we're like any less focused on those other applications, but that's where we have spent that bulk of our time and effort of making sure that that is perfect for what the customer is doing.
Among your certified workstations, do you have a most popular workstation, particularly in the post-production sphere?
Most popular, it's kind of difficult to actually say just because of how tailor-made we make all of our systems. It's very rare that two systems are going to be absolutely identical. I mean, there are absolutely some. There's only so many combinations you can do. But like a single configuration, probably it'd be hard to tie down. But there's kind of two different directions I think most of our customers go for posts. One, and probably the more popular, if you want to call it that, is based around Intel's Core 12th Gen CPUs. Those are technically consumer grade CPUs, but man, they are absolutely terrific. Tons of power, great performance. They're terrific for Premiere Pro, After Effects, DaVinci Resolve, all those applications. But the specialty of those CPUs is that they have a technology called QuickSync, which Premiere Pro, After Effects, DaVinci Resolve, again, they can use to accelerate decoding and encoding of H.264 and HEVC codecs. And those codecs are rough. They are terrible. But that turns them into, like, proxies are an absolute necessary part of your workflow to, hey, you can possibly just work with things natively and you don't have to deal with proxies and it will actually be pretty good. So a lot of our customers tend to go that way. And it's either for QuickSync or it's just because it fits more into their budget. Those are more kind of consumery level processors, so they are not nearly as expensive as what are typically called workstation class hardware. So a lot of people go that way. They're terrific, amazing systems. Some of our other customers, especially on like the higher end workflows, we've moved over to the new AMD Threadripper Pro 5000WX series. Very long name, terrific processors though. These ones just kind of released, technically in terms of like sales stats, they might not be the most popular yet, but they will be once they've kind of percolated out. And these things are super beefy, 32 or 64 cores. They don't have quick sync, so they're not as good for like H.264 and HEVC. But for people in higher end workflows working with raw footage, especially Red Raw, RE, those kind of things, they really just have the horsepower to kind of chew through that stuff. Whether it's to make proxies faster or just to work with it natively, they're terrific. They are, of course, more expensive. Anything that's qualified as a workstation class hardware, oh boy, they get a price tag kind of to match. But if that's what you need, like I was saying earlier, the cost of your people is more expensive than a workstation. So getting them more efficient and more effective is always going to pay off. They also have things like higher memory capacities, which sometimes comes into play for like After Effects or Fusion. And they can support a lot more GPUs. So those people that are looking at really high-end color work or even VFX in like DaVinci Resolve, yeah, that's kind of the platform that a lot of those people would go. So it's usually one of those two directions: Intel Core, 12th Gen, or Threadripper Pro, depending on what their needs are and, of course, budget.
Do the newer Apple M1s ever fit into any of your workstations?
This question we get all the time of, Apple and PC, is it really a versus, or is they, can they work together? And I really feel that it is very much, yes, they can absolutely work together. I mean, at the end of the day, computers, whether it's a Mac, it's a PC, whatever, they're just tools. It's the same, you wouldn't use a screwdriver as a hammer, you wouldn't use a hammer as a screwdriver, same thing. And yes, they can do the same task. So it's not, really the same, but they both have their specialties, the ways that they work better. Like the M1s, like I have an M1. I have an M1 laptop right back there, and I have no problems having it in the background because for what I'm using it for, or for people editing on the go, yeah, it's terrific. Absolutely. It just comes down to what is it you need to have done? What does your computer have to do? And can it do it? And if it can, great. If it can't, well, then you look into other options, and with Apple, there's the Mac Pros. Those things get astronomical in terms of price once you get beyond the baseline. And that's, the reason why, some of our customers come to us that are used to the Mac ecosystem is either the pricing is getting too out of hand. And so they're looking at something, comparable performance at a lower price tag. That's great. Or they're looking for capability that just isn't possible on Mac. Whether it's, a lot of times it's going to come for us from like DaVinci Resolve, looking for more performance. And so they want to have, 2 or 3 NVIDIA, GPUs. Yeah, you can get a lot more performance out of that than what you can out of like a Mac Pro. And so it's just that capability, what is it they need? What's the right tool for the job that fits within their budget? And yeah, and you can mix and match. I mean, I know there are some people who are diehard, I hate Windows, I love Mac OS, or I hate Mac OS, I love Windows. To me, the most annoying thing personally is just that the keyboard shortcuts are slightly different. But beyond that, once you're in the application, once you've trained that muscle memory, it's the same Premiere Pro. It's the same DaVinci Resolve. So it's all about just getting that tool that's going to give you the capabilities you need. And who cares if it's a Mac or if it's a PC, really.
Well, Matt, it was fantastic to meet you. Thank you so much for joining us on Creative Cow, and maybe we'll see each other in the future.
Yeah, I hope so.